Hello, and welcome to our LULAC Vote by Mail education video for voting by mail, May 24, 2022 runoff election. I'm happy to talk about voting by mail this year. And how is it that they've done that? Well, now you have to include an ID number on the application for ballot by mail. Not only do you have to put the ID number, it must also match the one they have on file at their elections. I'm going to talk now about some instructions that we have for voters and precinct chairs, and how to fill out the application for ballot by mail. First of all, as you probably know, all voters must reapply to vote by mail annually, and this year they must use the new application form. To do that, you can download and print the application at this URL right here. We are going to go to it in a few minutes. And then once you fill out the application, you need to tape the sides, don't staple them, tape them and mail it to 1103 South Frio, San Antonio, Texas 78207. The alternative to taping the sides, you could place it in an envelope, which will protect it a little bit more. But by taping the sides protects the voter's information, and that's a requirement from their elections. Right now, so let's go to the application itself and take a look at it. You click on that website and it takes you to this landing page on the Bear Elections website. There's a lot of information here, but I'm just going to scroll down to the middle of the page where it says, how can I vote by mail? How do I apply for an application to ballot by mail? And then click here. Now here's the application. It's 2 pages, and this first page is where you put your information. Then the second page has instructions, and these are very detailed instructions. I do encourage everybody to read through this so they can really thoroughly understand what they're being asked to do. And then down here at the bottom is where the mailing information is, where you have your place to put your return address and the fixed postage here. And there's the address. So let's go through the application. This application, you can either fill it out online and then print it and sign it, or you can print it and fill it out by hand. It doesn't make any difference. And the one thing you can do though is submit this electronically. You have to send this in the mail to the Bear Elections office. So let's put a name here and then go down to the address. Super important that you always put an apartment if you have an apartment number. City, Texas, and I notice that once in a while when I hit the tab key, it goes backwards. Don't know why, but I hit it again, it goes back to where it's supposed to go. So there's the address. Now looking at optional information, you can provide a lot of this if you want, but it's not necessary. There is one thing that we want to do all the time, though, so date of birth. You can certainly put in your date of birth. That could help Bear Elections finds you maybe a little bit easier. You could put your voter ID number, which is on your voter registration card that they send every 2 years. You could put an email number, but super most important is that you put your telephone number, so if Bear Elections says any questions about your application, they can call you. Now we come over to the ID numbers, and this is where we have the biggest problem, and also where we have the fix to avoid most of the issues. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and just read this to you. It says Texas driver's license, Texas personal identification number or election identification certificate number issued by the Department of Public Safety, not your voter registration ID. You want to put in your Texas driver's license number, and this is an 8-digit number. And then it says if you do not have a Texas driver's license, Texas personal identification number, or a Texas election identification certificate number, give the last 4 digits of your social. But we're not going to do an either or. Now we're going to put in both of these pieces of information. The reason is because whatever number you put on this application must match what they have on file at Bear Elections. If it doesn't match, they will reject your application and send it back to you. So we're going to try and avoid that by putting both numbers. That way they'll be able to have something that matches, and this has been approved by Bear Elections for us as a solution to work around to this problem. So put in both numbers. Now we're going to go down to mail my ballot to, and most of our people are 65 and older. That's the people that we were talking to about voting by mail, and so they're gonna typically put their my residence address is this on the road registration certificate. However, if they fall into another category like one of these down here, they should fill in the address where they will be when they need to get the application. The reason for voting by mail, again, most of our people are voting by mail because they're 65 or older. If you're 65 or older and you're disabled, just mark the 65 or older box. There are some other reasons that you can vote by mail, and if one of these applies to you or one of your voters, you can certainly fill them in as well. Send me a ballot for the following election here in Section 4. This is super critical. We want them to put annual application Democratic primary and any resulting runoff. We want them to do this not only this year when we have primaries, but in years when they don't have primaries. Why is that? The reason is that we want the voters to be in the habit of filling out the same thing every time, regardless of what year it is, even though there's no primaries in odd-numbered years. If they fill it out this way, they will still get all the applications or all the ballots that they need, and it will save us having to have a different set of instructions for even-numbered and odd-numbered years, so it just happened filling this part right here every time. If they're only going to be missing one election and will be out of town and they need a mail application, they can fill in whatever information is over here about that specific election. So this basically you have to fill in as far as information is concerned, and then you assign it, you date it, and then we move down here to, if someone helps you with the form. A lot of people will need help with their form, and that's fine this year. However, if you help somebody out with their form, you have to check this assistant box and put in your information. That goes for if you're helping fill out the form or if you're mailing the form for them, even if you're giving them a stamp for the form. If you're assisting them anyway, go ahead and fill this out just to make sure you're covered. There's also something called a witness. I'm not going to go into it in detail. You can read the instructions about the witness on the back, but you might also be called upon as a witness if the applicant cannot write their own signature. Anyway, you can read instructions about that. Doesn't happen very often. And so now you're done basically with the application. You would print it at this point, and you fold it over, tape the sides, put in your return address information, your postage, and you're good to go. So right now I'm going to go back to the instructions for our precinct chairs and our voters again. This is a page that you can give to the voter. It has instructions. We've already talked about this piece at the top, filling out, taping the sides, where to mail it. These instructions here for filling out the application for ballot by mail 123 and 4. I've actually gone through them, so I'm not going to talk to you about them again. But now we get down here to tracking the status of your mail-in ballot. You can click on here to find out where your mail-in ballot is, also your mail-in ballot application status. It takes you to this landing page on the Bear Elections website. You go and fill in this information, submit, and you can find out what the status is of your mail-in ballot.